Hello! Welcome to my series of art, heritage and history of Southampton. My name is Katie Vela dos Santos and I've set myself a challenge to talk about Southampton in 15 minutes. I am one of 10 guides of See Southampton Tour Guides Association in Southampton and in the New Forest here in the UK. This is video 1 on medieval and Tudor Southampton. As we know, William the Conqueror arrived in 1066, and here we are, some of the Norman legacy that he's left behind. So the Norman left architecture, language and law, and let's focus on architecture. Here at the top images, you can see the interior of St. Michael's Church from dates from 1070, so it is 950 years old, and you can see the Norman arches. The photo in the middle depicts the square font. It's from Tournai in Belgium. It's from the 1100s, and it was commissioned by the Bishop of Winchester, Henri de Blois. The bottom photos on the left show Bargate, which is the main gate in the city of Southampton, as you can see here in this picture as well. The beautiful gate allowed people to go in and out of the city to go to Winchester, once upon a time the capital of the country, in London. And you can see the Norman arches once again, in the south facade and the north facade. On the south facade, you can see the arrow slits and the embattlements with the machicolations, the holes used for the defense of the city. On the north side, you can see above the main arch the codestone statue of King George III. Also from the 1100s is St. Julian's Church. You can see at the bottom right-hand side. St. Julian's is the charming little French church, and if you'd like to know more about its connections with the French, with the Huguenots, with Oxford, please do get in touch. This is for you to see what Southampton would have looked like in the 1100s. So you can see St. Michael's Church in the middle of the image, and then you can see the timber-framed houses in the middle, and King John's Palace and the other warehouses by the quay. Now this road, now you can see here with the water, is where West Quay Shopping Centre, the Watermark Shopping Centre, is now. Still 1100s, our king was Henry II, very powerful man. King of England, Count of Anjou, at times he controlled Wales and Scotland and Brittany. And then in 1151, he married Eleanor of Aquitaine, and together they were a very, very powerful country with England and most of France. Medieval merchants who were around were people like Richard of Southwark and Bernard de Vere, who lived in timber houses with stone cellars at the bottom, which we'll see now. There we are. This is a merchant's house with the stone vault at the bottom, used as a warehouse. So you can see where they would store all the wine and the wool later. The room at the front would have been the shop, so very important. And then the living quarters would have been upstairs. Here's another example of the little houses that you would have seen in French Street. Again, you can see the stone vaults or the cellars at the bottom of the house. And we still have a fine example of the merchant's house in French Street, now manned by English Heritage. This one dates from 1290. Southampton became very wealthy in medieval times thanks to the trade of wine and wool. As you can see here, Southampton used to ship wool to Ghent and Antwerp, and receive wine from France. And there was a lot of trade as well with Genoa and Venice. I say genuine Venice because back then we couldn't call it Italy. Now the 1300s were the best century for Southampton. We had what the locals called the French raid. The pirates came on a Sunday morning in October 1338, and they took all the silver from St. Michael's Church, and a lot of blood was spilt. The locals weren't very impressed, nor was King Edward III. It was so bad the church had to be reconsecrated after that. 10 years later, we also had the Black Death, as we know, all over Europe. There are lots of corpses, and those who did bury the cadavers would become wine porters, which was an extremely prestigious job. And in the 1400s, precisely because of the pirates, to defend the city, the king ordered that more walls would be built all the way down to the water. We already had Arundel Tower, but then they built Catchcall Tower, which you can see in photo number 1. And more walls were built all the way down, as I said, and these are now what we now call the arcades. And these walls went on top of the warehouses of St. John's Palace, for example. And if you go all the way down the arcades, you get to the Wall House. Wall House from the 1400s, magnificent stone building built by the Cistercian monks of Beaulieu. It's still as it was, with the timber frame, as you can see at the top here. Fantastic, all made of stone all around, the original stone and the original timber from the New Forest. This is where Southampton hosted the award-winning Waltz in Vino events, as you can see on the photo at the bottom. It's now a microbrewery called Dancing Man, where you can have a meal or go for drinks or hold a wedding. Same in the same road, same stretch, you can find the castle vault and the ruins where the castle used to be. And you can really imagine the wine arriving from France and Portugal and Spain. Talking about the wine and the wall, when 2 years ago I went on a trip to Bordeaux, I visited quite a few vaults, and in particular, if you look at the photos on the right hand side, they're very, very similar to the ones in Southampton. So I was fascinated by this, and the similarity is uncanny. So could it be that the stonemasons came from France to Southampton to teach us how to do it? Why are they so similar? This is Castle Vault, the inside of Castle Vault, with one of the Southampton tour guides. The vaulted ceilings, the barrel-shaped. There's another one. Lancaster Vault is in High Street. And you can see the quadripartite ribbed ceiling on the top here. Lancaster is the name of the man who had a shop above. If you go further down High Street, you get to 94 High Street. It's got this enormous vault, which is connected to other vaults. In the photo at the bottom, you can see the light well. This one would have been painted blue. The ceiling would have been painted dark blue with golden stars. There's another one, Way House. Top photo shows you windows and doors and benches. Could it have been a shop? Was it a shop to sell wine? Moving on swiftly to the 1400s, you can see Westgate Tower on the right-hand side. Remember, 1400s is now time of the Battle of Agincourt, where Southampton had to step up with its defence. The other interesting thing about this photo is on the left-hand side, you see the fish markets, actually called the Westgate Hall. So it's fish at the bottom and cloth at the top and wool. Now the fish market is where you can hold your wedding. Moving on 1400s, now Tudor times. Yet another picture of the same arcades with the castle at the back. And you can see the carracks here, the flat bottom ships that used to transfer the wine barrels from the big ships onto the warehouses. At the back of these arcades, of these walls, you can find a Tudor house. It's now a museum. Tudor house put together by Sir John Daughtry in the 1400s. Magnificent house with a garden at the back and access to St. John's Palace. And here's the interior of the house with its garden, typical Tudor knot garden with its herbs. It also has the original Tudor kitchen at the bottom. And if you go into the cafe, you might find a bee bowl. Of course, wax and honey were very important. In the garden, you can find the heraldic beasts, the unicorn on the left, dedicated to Sir John Daughtry, and then the stag on the right-hand side to the second owner, Richard Lister, now the 1500s, who became the Lord Chief Justice in London and rode in the procession of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn's wedding. The bronze cannon that you can see here on the left was made for Henry VIII in 1542. If you go to the first floor of the house, you can see the graffiti depicting ships and the galleons in the 1500s. In the 1500s, Henry VIII's daughter, Queen Mary, married Philip of Spain. Philip arrived in Southampton, and 3 days after they went up to Winchester, where they got married in 1554. Apparently, he left behind a Tudor strong box, the so-called Armada chests. Now, is this Armada chest the one in St. Michael's Church here on the left, or is it the one inside Tudor House here on the right-hand side? We don't know. We know that this couple gave Southampton a monopoly of sweet wines to help boost the trade. So that would have been sherry from Spain, or maybe port from Porto in Portugal. And to end, I had to end with a map by John Speed. This map can be found in the Theatre of the Empire of Great Britain, which belongs to a great friend and colleague of mine. I hope you have enjoyed this little video. If you have any questions, please contact me by email or log into our website. Thank you for watching.